Well, Tanya, it's great to have you this evening. I For those of you they're going to get a chance to watch this, my name is Seth Bradley. I am the I handle and manage the Planet Sci-Fi page and YouTube channel. This is Miss Tonjia Atomic, independent filmmaker, director, and actress in Manos Returns. I gotta admit, I was really excited to get the chance to visit with you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Um, and and I was first introduced to the original Manos, The Hands of Fate, I believe when I was about 8 or 9 years old through Mystery Science Theater, and uh, and so hearing that there was a sequel, I was naturally excited. Um, can you tell me uh, what made you like what inspired you to get involved in producing a sequel, directing a sequel to Manos?
Yeah, it was a couple different things actually. So I was actually introduced to the whole Manos through my friend Rachel Jackson, who she did a puppet musical called Manos the Hands of Felt. And that's actually how I first became introduced to it. I was always a Mystery Science Theater fan since I saw it originally when they started playing it. I think it was on USA or something when it was first on cable
Yeah.
television, wide cable. Um, but I'd never seen that particular episode, and it wasn't until my friend was working on the musical. She hadn't produced it yet, but she had been working on it, had the idea, I thought it was so funny. And then I actually sought out the original film, the original Mystery Science Theater version.
Yeah.
And that's how I was introduced to it. But funny enough, I was introduced to Jackie Naaman Jones, who plays Debbie in the original film, through a different friend. I think we must have talked about it because I had been familiar with the film by then. So we must have talked about it or something. And he introduced me to Jackie. Um, and I found out that Jackie was wanting to put on a sequel because of her relationship with her dad. It was important to her to continue creating things in the Monos world.
Hmm.
Um, that was something that her and her dad could do together, and that was important to her. And so she wanted to do the sequel. Um, and I don't know if my friend pitched me or if I pitched myself to her to direct, but I did send her some of my work to consider me. And I remember thinking, it was kind of a gamble. I wasn't sure how she would feel, but I think because her and I really click. We're a lot similar in a lot of ways, and we really get along. And I think she knew that I was someone that she could work with,
Hmm.
and that was completely separate from from knowing Rachel. I know Rachel through the theater community in Seattle.
Okay.
But Jackie and Rachel also knew each other, which is interesting. And so we kind of all got involved that way. And then finding out that our director of photography, Joe Sherlock, Jackie also knew and lived near him. And they had been talking too. So it was kind of like, um, actually, I think that Jackie and him were talking about the project, and he was maybe already on board to be the director of photography. And I think maybe that helped me seal the deal a little bit, becoming the director, since I had such good references and people that already knew Jackie. So it was really interesting that we had all those connections. And, it's that whole it's a small world kind of thing.
Hmm.
Meeting Jackie, and she already knew a couple of friends of mine. And we all ended up being the co-producers actually of the film.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. How did you and this is a question coming from someone who's has little to zero experience in filmmaking. I'm curious, how did you get your crew?
It's a number of ways. So Joe Sherlock also works with people that he works with on a regular basis, and I do that too.
Hmm.
So there are people that we both work with on a regular basis. And just through the four of us producers, we happen to know enough people that we were able to assemble our crew that way. And then with similar with our cast, although all of the cast members had to go through Jackie. Jackie was the deciding factor, and we thought that that was right because she had such a connection to the original film.
Right.
So everyone who was involved in the cast, Jackie had to be the final say on everybody. She had to, if she didn't know what someone could do, she had to see them audition.
Right.
Um, and so, like crew, she let Joe and I and Rachel pick people that we trusted and were familiar with working with. And then, like I said, similar with cast, except we had to bring them to her and she had final say.
Okay. Um, is does Miss Jones have does Miss Jackie Jones, does she have other filmography and theatrical experience or what?
Funny enough, she was in Manos, The Hands of Fate as Debbie, but she was
As a
also in
child?
another film that was in Mystery Science Theater. She was in The Curse of Bigfoot, I think maybe.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
so
she was
cool.
in that as one of the kids in class or something like that, and one of the
Yeah.
classmates or something. So I just think that's funny that just by chance she happened to be in two films that were both riffed on the original um,
Mhm.
Mystery Science Theater. That's
Right.
funny. Um, but she's been in several films. I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of acting she did up until we did Manos Returns. I know she'd been in a few things, but she also has been in several things since then.
Hmm.
She was funny enough. She was in another Bigfoot film, Primal Rage, I think it is. I hope I'm saying it right because I want to give a shout out.
Right.
And been in several of Joe Sherlock's films, and she's been in some of my films too. So yeah, she has a pretty extensive film career, and I don't know everything. I can't speak for. I don't know everything that she's done up until Manos Returns, but I do know she was in a few things.
Sure. One thing I appreciated about your movie is it's a true, to me, it seemed like a true legacy sequel in the sense that not only do you have at least three reoccurring actors from the original film, but I feel like tone-wise, it feels very, very similar. The grainy film quality notwithstanding from the original, obviously the film quality is going to be a little different um, when it's made several decades after the original, but it feels very much like a spiritual sequel to the original. So I really thought that was great.
Well, thanks so much for saying that because that is exactly what we were trying to do, and
Mm,
that's like so heartwarming to hear. We put a lot of effort into doing that. We were like, let's do something where the story's kind of simple.
hmm.
Story's maybe parallel to the first one a little bit. Excuse me.
Good.
But also we wanted to expand the world slightly, but still have a sense of mystery. So
Sure.
there were a lot of goals going into this. We wanted to add humor because we felt like most people discovered this movie through Mystery Science Theater 3000. So we wanted to acknowledge that fan base and the base of the fans of the riffing. We wanted to bring a nod to that with the travelers that we had, and we have them mention, talking about that kind of a thing. And we also wanted it to be something modern at the time of making it, which now it's 10 years ago. I can't believe it, but we wanted it to be modern of the time that we filmed it. But we wanted it to be reminiscent of the time that the original was filmed in, with some of the colors, the car that we have. And we wanted it to be very monosy. We always would say, "Is this monosy enough? What decision do we want to make here?" which one's the more monosy
Yeah.
decision, and that's the one we go with. So we would be very conscious of that. We wanted to do the best we could with what we had to do, but we
Mhm.
also allowed our limitations to show, which we thought, well, we thought the original one probably did that more. I mean, we all had a film, a lot of us had film and theater background, so we had a little bit more we were working with. But we did allow some of those limitations to show on purpose while at the same time not creating it purposefully in a mocking sense.
Yeah.
Um, so and we wanted to be true. We wanted to try to make the best movie we could, like we felt like they were doing for the original too,
Yeah.
um, and hoping that it was a little better outcome than the original, because there were, so many technical flaws. We were trying to avoid that. Um, but I think the main thing is we wanted to have sort of a slow, creeping sense of dread, while at the same time having a sense of mystery, which I feel like that's the kind of the key to the original film.
Right. Um, Something that of course, when I saw the original Mystery Science Theater, there was that was the original version of Monos that I saw. Was the Mystery Science version, and there was actually a couple of moments that were edited out compared to the because I went and watched within the past few years. I went and rewatched a cleaner version of Monos on YouTube. I actually ended up getting on Blu-ray because I had to have it. I'm a film. I'm a physical film enthusiast, so I had to have a copy of it.
Ben Tolleve's restoration version?
I'm sorry.
Was it the restoration version, the cleanup version?
Yes.
Ben Tolleve? That's cool. I know Ben. I met up with him once in New Orleans. He's a neat guy, very much into film preservation.
Yeah. And in the cover of it looks extremely epic with the master spreading his arms out, just being the front and center of the cover. It's just it's really something. But what I was a couple points I wanted to get out there that when you were bringing up some points that made me think. One, the original Monos had a little more, not much violence, but a little bit of violence. Um, that I think in Mystery Science I didn't see it. Like I think
Mhm.
there's a where the master goes and strikes one of the wives. There's a little bit of blood there, and I don't remember what you said that maybe made me think of that, but I just wanted to mention that. And but the bigger point I wanted to make, one thing I appreciate, one, there's the spiritual sequel aspect of your movie that I really appreciate. But is that, oh my God, you've got a cat.
Sorry, that's my
No,
cat
no,
on.
no. No, no, no. I've got two that have been wandering around, circling me like sharks. Um, I appreciate a sequel or a remake that is if you're going to make a movie that is tongue in cheek, or excuse me, a movie that turns out not to be, let's say you take one of these Sharknado movies or something like that. Those movies are bad movies, but they're intentionally made bad. I don't like, it's not that I don't enjoy those movies, but I really appreciate a movie more when, like the original Monos, that a group of folks that had zero experience or mostly zero experience in filmmaking got together and made a movie. And they were trying to make a movie, and it didn't necessarily work out the way they wanted. I appreciate when someone is making a movie and they allow, like in your case, you allowed some humor to come in, right? And you allowed some of the limitations to show, but you didn't go out of your way to point out, hey, this is based on a really, really a movie that is notoriously considered a bad movie. When movies do that, it feels so meta that you can't really enjoy it as much. I don't know. I'm sure there's a better way I can articulate this, um, but I just there's movies that are that try to be bad. It's almost like being bad, being laughed at is almost um, it's it's become a popular thing in itself. Decades ago, that was not a thing. You just tried to make the best movie you could, and it worked or it didn't. And some of those movies ended up being award-winning, Oscar-nominated movies. Some of them ended up in the Mystery Science Theater um, um, backlot. So it does that make sense? I
Yeah,
feel like I'm rambling.
I think there's some, and I don't want to say this in all cases, but there's something almost mean-spirited in films that are trying to be bad on purpose, or there's some kind of like films that are trying to be good, whether they succeed or fail. There's like an earnest, sort of endearing quality to them that
Yeah.
I think it's cynical, not
Yeah.
mean-spirited, it's cynical, I think. And
Right.
sometimes if it's done well, it can be funny, but if not, it's just negative, I guess.
Yeah, right. Maybe you feel some similar, maybe not, but movies that are meta, I enjoy a lot of meta jokes. But there are some movies that are so flagrantly meta that I almost can't respect it because I would rather a movie be bad that tries to commit to its own rules and its own world than a movie that just tries to stand outside of its own box and say, look how ridiculous this is. This is silly. Almost like it's telling people to laugh. Um and so I enjoy a good an earnestly produced movie that's actually
Mhm.
A or B quality. So, you know, because of that honest, earnest attempt to make something good.
Mhm.
Uh, but one thing I wanted to mention, I was absolutely psyched when I saw Tom Naiman in this movie. When I saw him as the master, which you surprisingly, and I guess this is somewhat spoilery, even though you do see him briefly in the trailer. He is actually peppered a little bit throughout the movie. Um, so I was really excited to see him again. Um, in the original film, he was definitely the standout um, performer and just overall quality of film. He was definitely the best part. Um, was he on board with participating from the get-go, or did you have to do some convincing?
Oh no, he was excited to be involved. He loves anytime that he got to work with his daughter Jackie. Anytime he got to work with her, he was very pleased. He enjoyed doing the role. He enjoyed the resurgence of the the Manos fan. Well, there wasn't a resurgence because there was never a Manos fan base to begin with, but he
Right.
enjoyed that it got discovered. He actually saw the original Mystery Science Theater episode when it aired that played Manos the Hands of Fate and was, I think he was like laying on the couch resting and maybe about to take a nap or something. And it came on and he was just floored and he started calling people up and I just wish I could have seen his reaction at the time. But he always enjoyed it a lot from
Yeah.
what I've heard, and he he really enjoyed working on our film. And unfortunately, he did pass away before the film was finished editing. That's one of the. There's a lot of kind of sad, a little bit of sadness around the film too. We've lost a few of our cast and crew, and I
Sorry to
lost my
hear that.
parents before filming as well. And so it was, there's a lot of like real, I feel like human stuff involved with the film. And I feel like a lot of us have become like family. And a lot of these people are people I keep in contact with to this day. Um, and it's just very meaningful. I feel like the film means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the some of the other people involved as well. Well, hopefully all the other people involved as
Sure.
well. Um, but he did get to see his, at least his performance. I don't know how much of the film he saw, but he did get to see some of the film along as we were editing it.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that at least he got to see that, and he was happy with how it looked and his parts, and was really excited about it. I mean, we had a like a get together meal thing while we were um, still filming, and he just told us how pleased he was and how happy he was that we were doing this, and how um, pleased he was with our crew and how professional we were being, and
Yeah.
um,
That's excellent.
it was really nice. It was nice to have the opportunity.
That's excellent. He was I regret I didn't get to see more of him in other work. I know there's other work that he's done. Um, but he was excellent in your film. He even in scenes that he's not directly in, I mean, his presence is so magnetic. I just love his character. Um, and I'm glad that he got a chance to see. You said he got to see his scenes that he had filmed,
At
right?
least, yeah. I don't
Okay,
know how much else because he would watch stuff with Jackie. She'd bring things to him to review.
okay,
I don't know what else he got to see of the final film, but I know he said what the stuff he did see he was really excited about. So
good, good. I'm glad. Um, and he just it just you wonder when an actor goes back into a role several years later whether it's going to feel the same for both the audiences and for the actor. And for him to just slip back into this role, I don't know how it felt for him to wear that robe again, um, and to be reciting religious zealotry um, again. But he just recaptured the character. Um, so I'm glad that we all got a chance to see him again. Um, and obviously big appreciation to you and to everybody involved that helped bring him and bring Miss Jackie back onto the screen.
yeah,
Um,
a lot of that is Jackie. You know, she's one of the four of us producers, and you know, this is a project that's you know, an emotional project also for her. Late, I mean, a labor of love for all of us, really, but for
mhm.
her, it really has a lot to do with her family, her memories growing up. One of the reasons why this film was made is because she wrote a memoir, um,
Oh, okay.
like growing up with Manos, and her memories of I think it's called Growing Up with Manos, and it's about her memories of being on set, her memories with her dad, and she interviewed a lot of the people from the original film
Okay.
and the original musicians and the original singer, you know, just
Mhm.
different people involved, cast and crew, everyone she could find.
Mhm.
There were, I think there were like a couple people that said no, but otherwise everybody said yes, and she was able to find Brian Jennings, who played our sheriff, and he was the son of the original sheriff, and that's how we got him involved. That's how we got Diane involved to
Mhm.
back and play Maggie. Is Jackie found all these people through her book and
Mhm.
became friends with them and kept in touch with them, and was able to talk with. I think her and Brian were the ones that were like, "Hey, we should make our own sequel." You know, I don't know if it was in jest or not, but um, it became a thing
Yeah,
because of that. So um, and we owe a lot to Brian too, and he's one of our cast who's unfortunately has passed away since filming.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we owe a lot to him as well.
Um, is there I have d- did you by chance I was able to access the movie on I think I saw it on YouTube. Is there are you guys at any have you thought about doing any or not thought of have you is there any kind of physical release of Manos Returns?
Yeah, there's actually two available. There's one through our website,
Oh,
monosreturns.com.
okay.
I would suggest get going through our website. So
Okay.
monosreturns.com has um what are we calling it? Like the not a I don't know what we're calling it, like the enhanced or the it's got special features.
Like
It
special
has a lot
edition.
of features. There's some I think the trailers on there, a couple behind the scenes things. Anyway, that's available as a DVD on our website, monosreturns.com.
Cool.
We have a distributor, and they are um they so if you look up Manos Returns DVD, you'll be able to find just the bare bones DVD of just the film. They don't have our special features as well.
Okay.
But you are able to order it from other places too. But I would order it from our website because then you get the extras.
You get the extra features. Okay.
And yeah, and there's a commentary with the four of the producers. So me, Jackie, Joe, and Rachel do a commentary track as well.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I apologize for my ignorance about that. I look usually when I look for movies, I look for on if I can't find them on the shelves, which nowadays it's hard with streaming now. I look on Amazon, eBay, and sometimes Walmart. And s- so I'm glad. I'm really excited to hear that you guys have it available. Um, 'Cause that's something I'd really like to add to my collection. Uh, and just speaking more broadly about that, I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was Guillermo del Toro. I always butcher his name, but him and or a couple of other high profile folks in filmmaking really emphasize the importance of physical media. And so I try, I don't want to tip my laptop over, but I've got a 6 foot tall shelf over on the other side of this room, and it's a boatload of VHSs, DVDs, Blu-rays. I don't know how you feel about physical media, but it's so nice to be able to own it. I mean, I stream too, you know what I mean? But it's nice to be able to have your own copy. That's why I was really interested about about your movie. So, um,
Yeah, I think my husband is a little more into having physical media than I am because of space and we have a kid and stuff like that.
yeah,
But I do think it is important. I mean, I definitely do have a collection of DVDs and Blu-rays, small collection of VHS, things that are out of print, that kind of thing.
yeah,
I have CDs. I don't really have a lot of tapes, but I do have a reel to reel. So
yeah. Okay.
that I do collect vinyl. So I think I have small collections of what I feel like are essential, important pieces of each thing.
hmm Okay, that's cool. Um, I went off on just a little tangent about physical media. It wasn't directly connected to your film, but I I just one I need to set this. I was wanting to set this up to where you could see all the other movies and stuff that I've got here, but I'm I'm a big fan of that. Um, I wanted to talk to you a little more about. Uh, I know you've got a major passion for filmmaking. I want to talk to you a little bit about horror because I know you'd like to discuss us on your YouTube channel. You review and discuss films, including horror films. I'm curious.
Actually, can you repeat that? You cut out for a second there.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Um, I know that you have. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about horror films in general, just since I know you have a passion for filmmaking, including discussing and being a part of the horror community. So I was curious, out of like, how did you get introduced to horror films?
Well, if we're going all the way back, my very first introduction to horror films was two things when I was little. So my dad was a big movie buff, and I was a big TV person even when I was like real little. Like I
Hmm.
loved television. I wanted to watch TV all the time. I would sneak out of my room at night and sit in the hallway and watch TV from the hallway when I was supposed to be in bed, that kind of thing. But my dad was a big movie buff, and he would always take the family to all kinds of movies. I remember seeing like things that maybe I shouldn't have seen, or more other parents maybe wouldn't have. Like I remember seeing the Conan movies in the theater when I was little, and I even scolded my dad, telling him that like maybe I shouldn't be seeing people's heads being chopped off and stuff like that. He just laughed at me. Um, but when I was little, I remember he would rent movies like Something Wicked This Way Comes and Watcher in the Woods. And those were two of my favorites when I was little, because they would kind of scare me.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I liked that feeling of kind of feeling eerie, feeling a little bit,
You
um,
liked being scared.
yeah, a little bit frightened, but I'm in a safe space,
Yeah.
but it's chills. And I remember when I was 12, he rented me and my friend were having a slumber party, and he rented us Silver Bullet, the
Hmm.
film. And so that was my first kind of like I don't think that's a real heavy like adults only kind of movie, but it was my
Yeah.
first kind of more geared towards an older audience than for kids kind of horror film.
Was Silver
And what's
I'm
that?
I'm sorry. I apologize. I was just asking. Was Silver Bullet the one directed by or based off Stephen King?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Based on Cycle of the Werewolf, I think is the
Mhm.
story. Um, so that is one of the things that got me involved in. Were you asking me if how I got involved, like in horror specifically?
Just well, what got you interested in horror films? And and you were going the direction that I was kind of geared towards. As far as like what developed your passion for horror. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so there was definitely that, and then on the other side or connected to that, I guess, I the stories that I was making. I went to film school. I went to a 2-year film and video program, and the projects that I was making were always a little bit strange, a little bit obscure, a little bit weird. Sometimes they had violence.
But
Um, I didn't realize that what I was doing was considered horror, because in my mind I felt like horror was like Friday the 13th,
mhm,
Halloween, like slasher films. I didn't
sure.
realize what a large genre, what how encompassing that umbrella of horror is, until I started getting accepted into film festivals, and they were always like the Dark Side Film Festival or the Blackest Heart Film Festival, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I'm making horror. I didn't realize that, because because some of my stuff was maybe psychological horror, or maybe it was like supernatural horror, and I
Right.
didn't think about it that way. It was just my own kind of naivete,
Hmm.
and so those two things combined, like I had a natural interest in horror films, and also my storytelling is more of that twisted psychological stuff
Yeah.
than which is horror. I didn't realize at the time.
Horror is a very broad-based, it's a very broad umbrella, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of horror fantasy, there's horror um suspense. There's lots of movies that are technically dramas. You would probably find in the drama section in a lot of f movie stores when those existed. But there's still like Silence of the Lambs. I is technically a suspense thriller type movie, but it's definitely horror, right? So you've got slashers, um, you've got the more mind bending, the more psychological horror. Um, it's very easy to say you're a big fan of this subgenre of horror, but maybe not all these other genres. It's very diverse, you know. Um, is there a subgenre of horror that I know that you mentioned psychological. Is that mainly what you gravitate towards as a horror buff?
I would say probably.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
Okay.
Um, but
Cool.
sorry about that. So you were saying that that's kind of the genre, the subgenre that you're leaning towards,
Oh, right. So,
psychological.
so I guess what I was also saying was I'm not the kind of person that thinks in categories very easily like that. That's probably why I didn't understand or make the connection that what I was making could be considered horror.
Okay,
I just naturally don't think like that very easily. I don't categorize things
sure.
um like that, and I don't it, it's just not where my mind goes normally, or where I feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick and choose kind of thing, I feel like yes, psychological horror and also what was I saying? So I was also saying um oh, supernatural horror. So psychological horror, supernatural horror are probably where I'm um more of more piques my interest.
Okay.
Like when I was younger, when I was a preteen teen, Nightmare on Elm Street was like a big deal for me. Me and a friend of mine, we used to watch all of the different sequels and stuff. We have sleepovers and watch them numerous times.
Yeah.
Um, so so that kind of thing was more my jam. I do appreciate some of the realism horror or
Yeah.
slasher horror, but I'm more into the, like Nightmare on Elm Street side,
Hmm.
or or like or like when it's a psychological, it stands for something else, like the Babadook, or like, is it revulsion or possession, that kind of thing.
There's yeah. There's a lot of movies recently that I think fall under, not to try to oversimplify, but I think fit under that umbrella, um, that are very metaphorical, like the Babadook.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not a huge fan of Ari Aster's. I mean, he's objectively great. He does excellent, but it's just not my. It's just too much for me. But his movies are very much like that. There's a lot of underlying thematic elements that are playing. Um, you may see something that's supernatural, but really the real issue may be the passing down of mental health
Mhm.
conditions. Did you watch his movies?
Yes, yeah.
What'd you think?
I do enjoy them. I see where you're coming from though, because there is
They're
I don't know,
brutal.
like a dryness to his films or something. I
A
don't
what?
know put what I'm thinking into words.
They're very brutal. I'll say like it's almost like he tries to find the absolutely most uncomfortable thing and that you could look at and then just puts the camera right on it. I'm like, I don't want to. I had plenty of going a little bit into spoilers. There's a character, won't get too deep into the details, that gets killed off in Hereditary. Someone gets killed off in the first act, and initially you don't see anything. And the kid that's driving the car that witnessed it, he knows what's happened, but you see him go through this like he's in a state of shock, and just the camera being on his face as he's trying to process what's happened That was brutal. That was really rough, but it still got the point across. And then a couple of minutes later, you see the aftermath, the gory aftermath, and I'm like, didn't want to see that, you know. And I'm not against horror. I mean, I like Jason and Freddy and the Halloween films. Loved Halloween Kills. You know, it's a gory movie, but it's for some reason I can't really explain why, but the gore in Halloween Kills didn't mess with me as much as the gore in movies like Hereditary or Midsommar. Like it's just there's something about those movies that just feels, and maybe that's what you were saying. It's just too much. I'm not I'm not making a moral statement against them like, you know, like some might. I'm just saying me personally, it was a bit much.
Mhm.
But
I'm kind of
yeah. I say that knowing full well that he knows his craft. He knows how to make movies, and I don't. So I'm not, you know, I'm not really criticizing him or other filmmakers. It's just an expression of, you know, as a film watcher, what I think of it, of the style. Um, is there a horror movie or a movie that could be considered horror that you think didn't get maybe it needs reappraisal? A movie that's underrated.
oh, that's a hard one. That's one I would have to think about. I will say that for projects that maybe aren't understood as horror or maybe aren't thought of as horror, but I think are kind of masterful at being horror. I feel like is Twin Peaks by David Lynch. I feel
Okay.
like is like a master in horror. If and when I look at it that way, I think that it almost makes it more impactful to
Mhm.
me. The show and the movies and the reboot, not the reboot, the sequel,
Yeah.
um, the return. I felt like the return is pretty much a masterpiece in horror, and I feel
Mhm.
like it's if you don't look at it that way, you maybe kind of miss something. As much as I was sitting here saying I don't like to categorize things, but I do think because I am part of this horror community, indie horror community, I do look at things out of that lens. I tend to a lot
Yeah.
um, because I feel like I've been embraced into a area, and I kind of think about that for sure.
Sure.
But I do think that Twin Peaks: The Return is. I don't think it's underrated, but I think it's underrated as a horror piece.
Okay. That makes sense. Well, David Lynch is such a he was such a fascinating filmmaker. Twin Peaks. I mean, everything about Twin Peaks is just it's so fascinatingly strange. And sometimes that by itself can push something into a horror at least close to a horror category. Everything from a weird and off-putting soundtrack, maybe the performances. There's and I don't mean off-putting critical of the movie, just sometimes something just doesn't seem right. Some just doesn't fit with that scenario, and you're like, that's creepy. Like, have you seen The Exorcist 3?
Yes, I love
Awesome.
that.
Awesome movie.
That I think that one is underrated horror
Yes,
for
how does
sure.
it have a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes? That's nuts.
That one has scenes that are genuinely frightening.
Yes. Well, and that movie is the perfect example of off-puttingly weird. Like weird that veers into scary. Like there's a line, do you remember the scene where George C. Scott is in a dream and he sees this little boy that we can presume is like the angel of the a boy that was murdered previously in the movie. And he goes up to the kid and kind of pats him on the shoulder, says, "I'm sorry you were murdered, Thomas. I miss you." And it's like no one would say that. It just feels so nightmarishly off-putting,
Mhm.
you know. And things like there's a character that we can presume gets decapitated, but you don't know. They don't show it. But in the very next shot, they show a beheaded statue. Like it's just
Mhm.
a zoom in on a decapitated statue. And it's just so weird and creepy. I love that's I actually like the third Exorcist better than I do the first one. Not again, just out of personal taste. I like what the third one's going for more than the first one. You
Yeah,
know.
I can understand that. I feel like they're different movies for sure, but the unsettling feeling in the third movie is more. I think it's just real more of a creep out. The
Yeah.
first movie, it's there and it's scary, but it's all right there for you to see. In
hmm
the movie, it's like something's wrong and I'm not really sure why or what, and that's like a danger I can't put my finger on, and that is definitely frightening because you don't even know how to protect yourself against something like that.
Right. The shoe is going to drop, but you don't know where and how.
Hmm. Or if it, or what kind of shoe.
Right. That there was a great podcast that Conan O'Brien does or did called Conan Needs a Friend, and he was speaking with I don't remember if it was Jordan Peele. I think it was Jordan Peele. And one thing that Conan said was that he really liked. First, he said, "I'm not a big horror movie fan," and then he proceeds to talk for several minutes about these awesome horror movies, and he and in great detail. And one of the things that he pointed out was in the movie The Woods by Robert Eggers. What scared him in that movie was just a shot, like you could have a shot of the tree line, and just the way that it's shot and the way that the cinematography is executed, it just feels like something is wrong.
Mhm.
Just it's just a shot of trees, but it can be scary in how it's shot and how it's presented. And I just thought that is so brilliant to take something mundane on the surface and make it creepy, you know. Um, and The Exorcist 3 was it wasn't necessarily mundane, but there was a lot of moments that were just so strange that it really gets under your skin.
Hmm.
Um, I've got and I think I'd mentioned this movie to you before. It's definitely not in the same it's definitely not nowhere it's nowhere near the same kind of movie as The Exorcist 3. But I think is underrated as Lord of Illusions.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Um, it's definitely a product of the 90s in the sense that you can really tell that CGI was in its infancy. But I love the idea of a movie that is part noir, detective noir, and part body horror. Like that's
Hmm.
just a weird genre mix up that I really appreciated that movie.
Cool.
By the way, my dogs are barking in the background, and I apologize for that. They bark at every single thing.
I can't hear them, so.
Okay, good.
Well, I
Um,
have a story for you about Lord of Illusions.
yeah. Okay.
So I have to say, I have to pre-set this up by saying I saw this movie a long time ago and I don't really remember a lot of it, to be honest, because I saw it before the movie came out. That's part of my story. So I was invited to a screening of the film. I didn't know what it was going to be. It was like Clive Barker's film, pre-screening. You know how they do those little round table discussions about films and then they find out what people think about them and sometimes they make tweaks and that was what I got invited to one of those.
No
Like,
way.
yeah, so you get to watch the movie and then I went with a group of people from work and I don't know how they got involved either, but um I was invited, I went, and it was like you get to watch the movie, you get to talk about it afterward with Clive Barker.
That's
And
awesome.
Clive Barker was actually meet Clive Barker, and he was there. We were in this little screening room in this building that I didn't even know had a screening room. in it. I don't. It's probably not there anymore because so much of Seattle has changed. But we went to this building. We went up, to this room. We got to sit at these tables, and then they had this screen, and we watched Lord of Illusions. And then Clive Barker came out and just chatted with us all about it. And well, he
Yeah.
introduced it too, I think. And then the next night, he did a. We all got to go to this reading that he
Mhm.
did, and he read a couple excerpts from some of his books, and we all got to meet him there, and people asked him questions, and it was great.
That's so
And it
cool.
by chance, I didn't plan it. I just got to tag along with some people that were doing it, and it was really cool. But this was when before the movie even came out, so I don't really remember a lot of the movie. So sorry about that, but
Yeah. Yeah, that I'm super jealous now.
I was gonna say you're probably like, I wish I was there.
But I mean, I don't know very many people that say, yeah, I was invited to a movie before it was released to the general world, to the whole world. I got to basically help critique the movie with the director. I mean, it's not a big deal or anything, but that's so cool. That is really, really cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. Yeah.
Um, you should, it's on every once in a while, YouTube will release free versions of films. And it's very sporadic as to which movies they are. And I think Lord of the Illusions is on there. And the only reason I recommend that is because the only other way you can find it anymore is if you go on eBay and buy a DVD.
Oh,
Otherwise,
it wasn't. I didn't realize it wasn't in circulation right now. That's strange.
oh, when there's a Blu-ray, a pretty cool Blu-ray that with a really neat box cover. Um, but it's low on it must be low in circulation because what few copies I've found of it is they're like over $100. It's
Oh
insane.
wow.
Yeah. But it's a really fun one and just learning about it too. I'm glad you told me that story because I've seen a documentary, maybe it was a documentary, maybe it was an article about post-production of Lord of Illusions and Clive Barker, he wanted to have a lengthier movie that had more detective stuff in it, more romance in it. And the studio came back and said, we would like to reduce the some of the drama and reduce some of the relationship stuff and add some more of the body horror stuff that he was known for. Now, ultimately, most of his vision remained intact in a different cut. There's a couple different cuts of the movie out there, I believe. And the one that I do have a DVD of it now, has most of all the stuff that he wanted in it. And I got introduced to it at the age of, you want to talk about seeing a movie too early. I think I was 7 or 8 years old. I mean, you watch Hey Arthur, you watch Mr. Rogers. Some people watch Clive Barker movies, at that age, but it was on the Sci-Fi channel. The Sci-Fi channel played a lot of horror I think it was late 90s ish when I saw it. My grandparents or my dad, one of the two, were just kind of watching TV and just hanging out. And I happened to be in the room and I was watching it. And it was a little intimidating for me then, but I was still entranced by how weird it was. And I came back to it years later as an adult, and I thought, this is an odd movie, but I'm really here for it. I like a movie that's weird and kind of marches to its own drum, or marches to its own beat. But you should. I know you said you haven't seen it in a while. Um, I'm really curious to see what you would think. Maybe check it out sometime when you're not buried. I know you've got a lot going on, but
I would be interested to see whatever cut, like a longer cut that he was more happy with, because I feel like when I've seen movies like that in the past, the film that's closer to his original vision has always been something that I felt something, like the connection to or relation to or whatever. And then the theatrical version I felt like was a little more confusing, or there was plot holes, or something like
Mhm.
that. Like I wish there was um um I think, was it Candyman he was talking about, the story originally he
Mhm.
had um more like romance in it or something, and that had been changed for when they made the film. So I kind of feel like um uh because Night was it Nightbreed, I think it was Nightbreed, that
Mhm.
he came out with a new cut
Mhm.
that he made, and it was just so much more cohesive, I think, than the theatrical version had been.
Sure, sure. That I'll need to check that out too. It's been a while since I've seen Nightbreed. Um, or even what was there was Candyman. What was the Hellraiser is the one is the other one I was thinking of. That one I've seen it, but it's been a while. Lord of Illusions. I'm not like a Clive Barker like um I'm not I enjoy and respect his work, but I really knew him for one movie. I was aware of I saw Hellraiser a while back. I've seen Lord of Illusions a few times. And I've seen Nightbreed too, but that's been years ago too. I really wish he would make more stuff. I just know that he made two or three movies and then he just kind of pieced out, you know. And sometimes it's for the better because you don't want your favorite filmmaker to burn out. But at the same time, it's kind of, you kind of wonder, well, I wonder what else he could have contributed. But um, if you don't mind me sharing, years ago I started a sci-fi page, and it was supposed to be a forum where I would just kind of share, just just start discussions about, it could be fan theories, it could be just fun facts, trivia about sci-fi movies, and my my biggest franchises, if you will, the franchises that I'm the biggest fan of, Star Wars, um, Godzilla, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, like all of those are definitely my favorite in the film genres. But for what's interesting is the Godzilla stuff, the kaiju stuff really took off on my page. I don't know I don't know how that played out that way, but I could post anything about Godzilla or King Kong or Mothra, and I could get a really extensive response from dozens and dozens of people within 24 hours. Star Wars and Jurassic Park, you get some, but not much. It's hard to get traction on those subjects. But were you big fans of those franchises?
I did see the Star Wars when I was younger. I saw Star Wars, and I actually got to see some of them in the theater when they came out, because I was old enough by that time to see Jedi. And I saw Empire Strikes Back at the drive-in when
Oh,
I was little.
cool.
Um, Although I don't know how young I was, but I think I probably fell asleep for part of it, and I didn't understand all of it.
Hmm.
So I was pretty little, but I do remember seeing Jedi in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Star Wars since I was a kid.
Hmm.
Um, Jurassic Park, I never got that into. I mean, I did see some of them and I enjoyed them, but I didn't. I don't think I've seen like everyone
Hmm.
or anything like that.
Well,
Were you
that's
gonna say something?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that that was definitely a franchise that you feel like wanted to be self-contained, but very quickly it blew up
Mm,
into a franchise where every couple of years you now get one. So I can
mm.
understand not not seeing all of them for sure.
And I think I'm least familiar with the kaiju films. I've seen a couple, but not a lot. I'm not well versed.
Yeah. There and there's talk about quantity. There's literally dozens of Godzilla films, and that's not including the American produced films that have come out from Legendary in the past 10 years. Um, there's so many, it's almost like Batman, and you know how there's so many different reboots, sequels, legacy sequels, standalone films. You can almost pick your own, what am I trying to say? Pick your own adventure with Godzilla films because there's so many different,
We have different flavors.
yes, and different continuities. That's what I was trying to say.
Hmm.
You know,
A
um,
completely different like story arc in a way.
yeah, yes, like some people were probably confused when Godzilla minus one came out a few years ago because that came out maybe 3 or 4 months before Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire came out. Both had Godzilla, neither one had anything to do with the other. But both were big hits, which actually surprised me because usually Japanese produced Godzilla movies that are released in the United States, re-released into the United States don't do that well, partly because audiences are like, what is they don't really understand the continuity with the previous film they saw. So it can be a little confusing, but it's pretty fun. It's still pretty fun. One advantage to having that many different films is that you can, you know, there's so many different flavors that you can like if you like the more horror, the more dramatic stuff, they've got those movies. If you like lighthearted stuff, they've got that too, you know. So plenty to choose from. Star Wars, weirdly, I started with the last movie. My dad introduced me to Star Wars through the special edition version of Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just enamored with it. And I worked my way back and watched Empire and A New Hope. And then I saw the prequels in the theater and loved them. I was a part of the generation that didn't get the criticism. Objectively, I get a lot of the criticism now, but I still love them. Um, and three is definitely episode three is definitely one of my favorite movies. But um, but and I guess one reason why sometimes it's hard to talk about Star Wars is because it's weirdly, and I'm sure you've probably seen this on social media, it's very divisive. Star
Mm-hmm.
Wars as a fan community is very divisive. And I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's because of social media. I don't know exactly, you know, you could spend days deliberating on what causes that division, um but there's not a Star Wars movie that I haven't seen that I didn't enjoy, you know. Some that I liked more than others, but anyway. Um I know you've got a lot on, you got a lot going on, so I don't want to keep you any longer. Um, I hope that maybe sometime we can do this again soon in the near future. I could just talk about movies for hours. So, I really appreciate you, Tanya, and I've enjoyed visiting with you.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's been real.
Absolutely. Um, but is but I'm really excited. I was excited about this, and I look forward to visiting some more in the near future for sure.
Okay. Sounds great.
But um, I haven't held I haven't held you too long, have I?
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. 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 Well, I hope you have a good one. Okay.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much.